Good morning, children. Welcome to biology class. Today we are going to start chapter 2, biological classification. Children, in this chapter we'll be learning about two kingdom system of classification, five kingdom system of classification, and the animals which are present in different kingdoms. So here let's start the chapter. So children, you know that on this earth there are many species present, and to study all these species it is very difficult. So biologists and scientists, they classified the animals, all the living beings, so to make the study easy. So the scientists, they propose 2, 3, 4, and 5 kingdom systems of classification. Out of these 5 kingdom system of classification, it is the most acceptable one. So let's come to two kingdom system of classification. So according to this classification, children, like scientists Aristotle, Linnaeus, Theophrastus, they have divided living organisms into plants and animals. Plants means trees, shrubs, grasses, vines, mosses, filamentous algae, and other familiar objects. And animals means cats, dogs, lions, cows, frogs, etc. So Carl Linnaeus in 1758, he suggested kingdom system of classification, and he divided the living world into two kingdoms, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Now there are shortcomings of this two kingdom classification because it is inadequate and unsatisfactory in view of the latest information about the lower organism. It has drawbacks like distinction between higher and familiar plants and animals is quite clear, but lower level of organization, there is difficulty to recognize them as plants or animals. Like Euglena, it is a unicellular organism and it shares both the characters of animals and plants. It lacks cell wall and it possesses contraction or flagellum for locomotion. On the other hand, like plants, it has chlorophyll. So Clabinomonas, it is also a unicellular motile organism with definite shape and has a photosynthetic organelle like animals, but it bears chlorophyll also and it is autotrophic in nature. Slime molds, they are a group of fungi. They lack cell wall. They can creep and ingest food, but they develop cell wall in the reproductive phase. Sponges, like plants, and they are fixed, branched, irregular creatures, and they respond to stimuli very slowly. But they have been kept within plants because they have holozoic nutrition and excrete nitrogenous waste. Similarly, lichens. These are dwell organisms formed by an alga and a fungus, and they are found encrusted on rocks or bark of trees, and they have no plant-like character. Yet they have been classified as plants because they're fixed of their fixed nature. Diatoms and protozoans, they are closely related and they have the same level of organization and they reproduce asexually by fission. But diatoms are plants and protozoans are animals and are placed in separate kingdoms. Bacteria and blue-green algae, bacteria present a great taxonomic problems. Like plants, they have cell wall and some of them are able to photosynthesize their food. But like animals, they have flagella to move around. And most of them are saprophytes. Fungi, unlike plants, fungi lack chlorophyll and are saprophyte in nature. Their body plan is also different, though they need to be placed under a separate kingdom but have been kept within plants. Eukaryotes and prokaryotes, the first formed organisms, they were neither plant-like nor animal-like. So in due course, some of them evolved along plant and animal lines. So grouping of such diverse organisms into two kingdoms, it is unsatisfactory and unrealistic. It puts together eukaryotes with prokaryotes. It also brings together non-photosynthetic fungi with photosynthetic green plants. So this two kingdom classification was discarded. Now come to five kingdom system of classification. So Robert H. Whittaker in 1969, he was an American taxonomist and he divided the living world into five kingdom classification: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So as the viruses, they are on borderline of living and non-living, so they have been left out. So what was the criteria for five kingdom classification? So Whittaker, he divided the living world into five kingdoms, which were based on these criteria like complexity of cell structure, complexity of organism body, their mode of nutrition, their mode of energy utilization, and phylogenetic relationship. That means their evolutionary relationship. Okay. So let's come to first complexity of cell structure. So on the basis of nucleus and structural complexity, two types of cells are recognized like primitive prokaryotic and complex eukaryotic. Complexity of body organism like unicellularity and multicellularity. So organic evolution, it revealed the earliest organisms, they were used unicellular and simple prokaryotes. Later on, complex eukaryotic forms evolved. Now mode of nutrition, two mode of nutritions are recognized in organisms. Either they are autotrophic or photosynthetic, or they are heterotrophic modes of nutrition. Autotrophic means green plants and some bacteria, they synthesize their organic food from carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight. So this process is called photosynthesis, and their mode of feeding is termed as autotrophic or photoautotrophic or holophytic nutrition. And the organism which shows autotrophic nutrition, they are called autotrophs. Some bacteria, they prepare their organic food from carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide and methane, and they get energy from the oxidation of inorganic materials. These are termed as chemosynthesis, and bacteria are called chemosynthetic or chemotrophic or chemotrophs. Heterotrophic nutrition means the mode of nutrition in which the organisms they have depend on other for food. And heterotrophic nutrition, there are of two types, saprophytic and holozoic. Saprophytic means the heterotrophs, they absorb fluid food through the body surface, and in case of animals, it is called saprozoic nutrition. In plants, it is called saprophytic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition means most animals, they take food through mouth and digest it in the long alimentary canal. They are called holotrophs. Certain organisms like Euglena, they have more than one mode of nutrition. They are called mixotrophs, as this mode of feeding is called mixotrophic nutrition. So the animals which depend on the food on plants, they are called herbivores. Those who prey upon other animals, they are termed as carnivores. And animals which depend on plants as well as on other animals, they are called omnivores. Modes of energy utilization. So on the basis of energy utilization, organisms, they are put together in three groups: producers, consumers, and decomposers. So green plants, they are termed as producers because with the help of chlorophyll, they entrap light energy and they can turn it into carbohydrate, and they form simple inorganic compound from the simple inorganic compound called carbon dioxide and water. Consumers, like all the animals which eat plants, they are called herbivores or primary consumers. Animals which prey on herbivores, they are called carnivores or secondary consumers, and large carnivores which feed on secondary consumers are termed as tertiary consumers. Third one is decomposers, like bacteria and fungi which decompose remains of dead animals and plants into simple inorganic compounds. They are compounds used chemical nutrients by the producers. Fifth one is phylogenetic relationship. Now this is the evolutionary history of an organism, and it is the index of true kinship among themselves. The fossils records can provide such relationship between, but these records are incomplete. Therefore, phylogenetic relationships are ascertained from morphology, cytology, genetics, biochemistry, and physiology for the correct grouping of organisms. So, the five kingdom classification includes Kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. So, let's come to Kingdom Monera. The Monera, it includes most Asian and the smallest and simplest prokaryotes. They have particular characteristics. That means they are unicellular, microscopic in nature. In some prokaryotes, cell aggregates and it forms a short chains and filaments. They lack different nucleus and they have a rigid cell wall which is made up of peptidoglycans. Their mode of nutrition may be heterotrophic or autotrophic. The heterotrophic forms, they may be saprophytic or parasitic in nature. Saprophytes can decay, ferment or petrification of dead organic matter. Fermentation is anaerobic breakdown of carbohydrates into carbon dioxide, alcohol and energy. And petrifaction is anaerobic breakdown of proteins and it causes a foul smell. Parasitic nutrition forms live on living organisms and obtain ready-made food from their host. And autotrophic forms, they prepare their organic food by reducing carbon dioxide in the presence of light or chemical energy. Now, many fix free nitrogen and enrich the soil. So, monorails are important decomposers, mineralizers, and nitrogen fixers of the biosphere. They reproduce by asexual, by binary fission or budding, and kingdom Monera includes two major groups, the eubacteria and archaebacteria. Eubacteria includes cyanobacteria or blue-green algae and true bacteria, and archaebacteria, they are the primitive form. They can survive under extreme conditions of environment and they may be halophils, thermoacidophils and methanogens. Kingdom Protista includes unicellular and aquatic eukaryotes. They contain typical eukaryotic cell organelles like nucleus, mitochondria, etc. They bear flagellum or cilia. Their cell wall is made up of cellulose and the nutrition may be autotrophic, heterotrophic or saprophytic, parasitic. Phytoplanktons, they are floating and photosynthetic organisms or autotrophs. Now, some protists, they are predators or consumers like protozoans because they do not have cell wall and show holozoic mode of nutrition. Some protozoans, they live as parasites in other animals. So, these protists, they are primitive eukaryotes from which multicellular eukaryotes have evolved. Third kingdom is fungi, which are multicellular decomposers. And they are unicellular or multicellular eukaryotic organisms and they are without chlorophyll. Their mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. They obtain their nutrition by extracellular digestion and some are saprophytes and some are parasites. Thallus, it contains delicate thread-like hyphae and the network of hyphae forms a mycelium. Cell wall, it is made up of chitin and it stores the food in the form of glycogen. They reproduce asexually by spores or conidia and parasitic forms that causes disease in plants and animals. The fermentation activity of some fungi is used in brewing and baking industry. So these fungi, they are the decomposers of dead organic matter which decompose into inorganic compounds. Fourth kingdom is Plantae, which are multicellular producers and it includes all the multicellular photosynthetic plants on land, seashore and streams. They are the major producers on land and the characters are they are multicellular eukaryotes with chlorophyll. They have large central vacuole and cell wall made up of cellulose. Plants, they are immobile in nature and they do not exhibit locomotion. They synthesize their own food with the help of photosynthesis process. They are the major producers on land. Some flowering plants are heterotrophic, living as partial parasites or total parasites on other plants. A few live in symbiotic relationship with bacteria. Insectivorous plants trap and digest insects and absorbs nitrogenous matter. Fifth kingdom is Animalia, which are multicellular consumers, and all animals includes diverse forms of animals like sponges, cnidarians, roundworms, arthropods, molluscaudids, all included in Animalia. They are multicellular and known as metazoa. They lack chlorophyll. Except primitive metazoans like sponges, they are all mobile way of life. Their mobility is due to the development of a muscle cell and nerve cells. Some animals, they become parasitic like tapeworm and roundworms. These animals are consumers and they form the link in different food chains or food webs. So this is all for today, children. In our next class, we'll learn about the kingdom Monera. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.